do that.
Mm-mm.
Okay, we live now.
Okay, we is. Okay, hey y'all, hey everybody, happy Wednesday, happy hump day.
Peace.
Hold on one
Hold
second.
on. I refreshed the YouTube screen and it's still waiting for you.
Okay, so what do I have to do? I have to go to my
Mm.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, you have to link it to your YouTube channel.
It's already linked to my YouTube. It's linked to the YouTube. It got the YouTube check bag.
Oh, it says that it's live on my end.
It says
You
live.
see it, you see us moving and talking too?
I do. It's
Okay.
live.
No, I'm saying
Yeah,
I'm
we're
saying
almost a minute in live.
Oh
no, I'm
wow.
saying you see it on YouTube. Not I'm not talking about
Oh,
from
I'm
StreamYard. I'm
not
talking about
sure.
from
I'm on
YouTube.
StreamYard only.
See it on
Oh,
YouTube.
Yes.
And where did you pull up StreamYard from? Did you use Chrome?
Oh no. Okay, so we are live. We are live.
Okay, why am I not
I'm looking
seeing
at it.
Weird.
I'm looking at it right now. We are live. So
Oh shoot. Okay, we are. I don't know what was wrong with my screen then. Shoot.
I had to exit out of the app and then get back into the app. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start over, I guess. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Okay, so today, of course, y'all know I'm Jasmine Says It All because I literally be saying it all. Today is my first episode, and our topic today is going to be trauma, different forms of trauma, and healing, and what does healing look like. So today on the show, I don't know how to blow people's screens up and stuff like that, but we have beautifully animated. Say hello to the people, girl.
Hey. I'm sharing your live.
Okay,
Hi.
thank you. We have Antonio Wheeler, black male therapist. We have Zen Frankie,
Peace, everyone.
sound healing Buddhist, Zen Buddhist. And then we have Sheila up here, which she is not showing her screen, or Daru. So
Well, Daru's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna judge Daru because I was having technical difficulties. And look,
I can see everyone.
Yeah, it's a teachable moment, and so when we go on next time, at least we know what we have to do. So I wanted to do this show because I understand that trauma can affect all of us mentally, and it can be the root cause of addiction, because we use that trauma as a fix or a pacifier to soothe what we've been suppressing over the years. And trauma can affect our personal development skills. It can affect our relationship with our family and interfere with our ability to form and maintain healthy relationships. So I know a lot of times we get on social media and it just appears that everybody is life is just being so perfect and everybody appears as if they're not even going through it. So we're just going to have a general conversation about trauma and some of the things that we've experienced. And I know for me, like over the years, I've never wanted to talk about anything that I've went through, but I feel like it's kind of like my calling because I'm always saying I'm a healer and heal people, heal people. We always hear that hurt people, damage people. But when you truly tap into yourself, you understand that heal people as well. So, yeah. I didn't really have too many questions to ask. Well, I wrote down a lot of questions to ask. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna start at first. I guess Frankie, since you're the Reiki sound healing master, you can talk about what it is that you do and some of the things that you experience with trauma and how you go about helping people with that.
Absolutely. My name is Zen Frankie. I am a Reiki master teacher, an herbalist, mycologist, sound healer, counselor, father, husband, all around healer. I can support any person in whatever mental, physical, and or emotional imbalances that they may have. For me, trauma energetically is stagnant energy. It's it's things that we're holding on to that oftentimes aren't present in that moment. And because the mind is such a tricky, beautiful creation of God, um, it cannot allow us at times to be present in our feelings and truly present in this reality. Because oftentimes our basic needs are always met. But we forget that and we like to hold on to other things. We make up things, we make up stories, and we hold on to pain. Pain is really in our minds because what's painful to someone may not be painful to the other. And we're all human. We're all made up of the same thing. And to clear up trauma, one of the ways to clear up trauma truly is to forgive. So much power in forgiveness. It's freedom, and it's not for acknowledgement of the other person. It's truly for you to be free and not attached to old hurt, old pain. So yeah.
So it's funny that you brought up the word forgive, right? Because I'm not gonna lie, I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I was gonna try to save it for the end of the show. You always, because I know my relationship with you, and you always talk about forgiveness. So could you like teach us or tell us how do we go about practicing the art of forgiveness?
Yes. Some ways to help support someone that may be struggling mentally, emotionally, and may have been hurt by someone close to them and or a stranger. To forgive is to detach yourself from the experience, knowing that yes, I had a negative experience, not negating anything from that experience, not taking it. We all go through things, but in order to forgive, you have to detach from the experience, meaning you have to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Like we hold trauma in our bodies, like it's physically it's in our bodies, and so in order to free our bodies, we have to let it go. Because again, in this present moment, all of us are good, no matter what happened to us in the past. In this present moment, and so another way to support trauma is to be present minded, moment by moment, acknowledging how I feel, accepting how I feel, but not attaching myself to how I feel, whether it be good or bad. That's one of the things that we practice in Buddhism, is just being an observer. No, not detaching to any particular experience, any particular person, just observing what's going on around you. Because if it's a car accident, if you're a witness, you're not a part of it. But if you insert yourself into it, now you're part of the entire experience.
Right.
So yeah.
When you had just said something about the car accident, I'm not gonna lie, that just brought back a flashback, because for those who don't know, at the end of January, I was in a really bad car accident. It was a 15 car pileup. My car got totaled, and the first thing I was thinking about, because it's just me and my baby at home, I was freaking out like, man, how I'm gonna take my baby to school? How I'm gonna get her to and fro? You get what I'm saying? So once I got home, and I just started realizing, like, because I have all these positive affirmations around my house, I had to start like changing the way that I think, because it really took me into like a deep depression, like instantly. As soon as I had that accident, I started to like remove myself from the situation and start looking at all the things that I had to be grateful for. Like I started really practicing the attitude of gratitude. So I started getting up in the morning like, man, thank God I got hot water. Thank God my legs working, because they had to cut my pants open just to make sure my knees wasn't broken. You get what I'm saying? So it was just like, man, thank God I got food in the refrigerator. Thank God I was able to see my baby, because look, ain't nobody gonna take care of your kids and love your kids the way that you are. Nobody. I don't care what nobody say. Nobody is going to give your children the type of love that you want to give them and that you think that they deserve. So when you said that thing about the car accident, I'm not going to lie, like it almost made me have a flashback, like really taking that time to have an attitude for gratitude and just really being present with myself and allow myself to live in a moment, because I can't do nothing about the car because it's already damaged. But how I'm going to operate with my life moving forward, because that was a traumatic experience for me as well. Anybody else want to jump in?
So I've always wondered about the forgiveness thing. Say that you forgive somebody, right? But one day you think about what happened and you're re-angered. Does it mean that you really did forgive that person or you didn't forgive that person? Even though you say you forgave them.
I would say, based on how you feel determines everything. You can't lie to the universe. The universe responds to our present thinking. So you can say it outward, but your innate feelings determine everything.
Okay.
I remember like doing like my whole healing thing, and I've been trying to like heal for years, right? Because I had like a really jacked up upbringing. And I was trying everything, talking to older people, talking to friends, talking to this person, talking to people that really wasn't qualified, going to different therapists and stuff. And I found this one therapist, and it was a Black woman. I'm like, man, she like probably one of the realest people that I ever came across when it comes to this whole healing thing. This before I had tried the sound healing, of course. And she did all the talking for me. And she basically told me that it is not my responsibility to like, I don't have to go around and I'm trying to put in words. I don't have to forgive. You don't have to forgive. So I was instantly programmed to say, like, you know what? I don't got to forgive this person because this person did X, Y, and Z. I can just cut them off, move on with my life, and be done with it. You get what I'm saying? So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, that works for me too, because like obviously, like I don't know, like I don't think I can really just like forgive the person, but I can move on. I can definitely move on with my life. I have moved on with my life. But you know, I'm God dang. See, I'm one of them people who's like, when I love, and when I'm cold, I can be straight cold blooded, cold hearted, and all that stuff at the same time.
We want to go ahead and jump in?
It won't affect me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna second that. I don't think that sometimes for certain situations, I don't think that forgiveness is needed, because I think sometimes people did that on purpose. But am I forgiving you for that was your intentions?
Exactly.
On doing what you did. You know what I'm saying? Like, you did it on purpose. Now I'm forgiving you. The second part of that is that, when I say forgiveness is not needed, because sometimes it is not about what they did to you. You just experienced their behavior. People are being who they are. We take the way they treat us as if it has something to do with us. It don't have nothing to do with it. Like, oh, why did he cheat on you? He didn't cheat because you wasn't enough or this. That's just who he is. And sometimes when people are being who they are, we experience it and say, this person did this to me. No, they did what they do. You know what I'm saying? That's like if I go outside and I get robbed, and it's like, did that person wake up with the intent on robbing me? Or did I just happen to come and encounter this person? It's this book called The Four Agreements, and it says, don't take anything personal. People are being who they are. And like, we're experiencing them and we're taking it personal that they're doing something to us when they're really just being who they are. If you got a friend that steal from you and they'd be like, why would you steal from me? I'm your friend. Like, you would never have to do that. All you have to do is ask me for it. They stole because they're a thief. They didn't steal because it was you they were doing it to. They saw an opportunity to do it, but then it's how you experience it. Now you're internalizing it, and now you need to forgive. They being who they are. So I think there are certain situations where it doesn't require forgiveness because that person is just being who they are. And sometimes I believe in that detachment from separating yourself from what you experience from another human being is important for you to move on, not necessarily saying I forgive this person, but accepting that that person was being who they are, and you just experiencing a behavior that impacted you, and being able to detach from that and move forward.
Ooh, I'm already glad I came over here.
I have read that. I read the book. I read the book, The Four Agreements, and I think that people do things for all odd reasons. We never really know, but I believe that when you forgive someone, you take your power back from them, especially if someone hurt you. It's important to forgive, and a lot of us, it's challenging for us to forgive when it's really traumatic. But when you hold on to it, it's in your office, so you're like, you have all this paperwork going on over and over. What happened? What happened? What happened? When you really, to heal, you have to really let it go. And you have, if you really want to get over, let it go and get to lovelier thoughts, better thoughts, different thoughts. Forgive that person. Be thankful that you're not that person, and just speak it out to the universe for your healing and your forgiveness. And also, you also have to forgive yourself. When you're forgiving, forgive yourself, because so many things happen to us, and we hold ourselves accountable, and we have the grief, the shame, the depression. All those are cousins of the devil. So you have to really know how to forgive yourself when you're going through something, when you're healing. Even if you didn't do any wrong, forgive yourself for just even thinking, just having that thought in your mind. You have to be forgiving to yourself. And then you just can walk on and try and enjoy life to the best, try and have an abundant life. Because Marcus Garvey said that, Honorable Marcus Garvey said that out of all the beings, humans, it's easy for us to be evil. We have to work on being nice and kind to one another. It's so easy. And some people, if you know better, you ever heard of you know better, you do better? Some people just don't know better. Some people was raised up around pain and hurt, and they weren't taught better to know how to love. Some people don't know what love is, so you got to start focusing on forgiving, and make sure when you forgive, you're taking your power back from whoever took it from you. You're taking it back.
I can't help it. I would like to be clear, like what forgiveness is. That's not something I'm saying I know, but I think we need to describe what that is, because I think, like me being a therapist, like sometimes people deal with certain things that, like I said, was done intentionally. Sometimes I don't need to forgive myself. You did me wrong. I don't need to forgive nothing. I was right. You was wrong. And sometimes
right. Exactly
I believe in like that letting go and detaching, but sometimes that forgiveness is some things were intentionally done wrong to us. And like, I would just be curious to know, like, what do we mean by forgiveness?
You on mute. You got to unmute yourself. He's not.
The StreamYard isn't on mute. Like, check your mic.
Okay, there we go. So Tonio, how do you define forgiveness then?
I was asking y'all.
Okay, so here's my definition of forgiveness is honestly accepting. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna go back to what you were saying, Antonio, because like I read this quote and it said, and I actually kind of used it a few times because it was so powerful to me. It said, when you realize the reason a person treats you has much more to do with their internal struggles than what it ever had to do with you, then you learn grace. And I was like, damn, Joe, like it kind of like twisted my mind, and it put me in that position to be able to forgive, because I look at forgiveness as honestly accepting it, like, okay, it happened. You know what I mean? And now I can let it go. You know what it don't need nothing else. I could just accept the fact that it happened. Now the difficult part, well, I think it'll be for everybody. I don't forgive though. You know what I mean? I let it go because I refuse to carry around somebody else's burden. Forgiveness, that's for me, not for them. You know what I mean? I just let it go, but I don't forget.
Frankie, you forgiveness master.
No,
So
I
I'm
100% agree with Daru. As we evolve as humans, you, you know, we often start off in a sad state because we get familiar with our bodies and our brains. And then once you see what the world actually is, then it becomes more angry, right? As Black people. And then after that, an acceptance comes. And, we grew up in this country that's caused a lot of hurt to us. Also, living in this country has also blessed us so very much, as specifically the Black tribe of America and the diaspora. And you can look at everything as twofold. Yes, there's so much trauma that exists all around us every single day. And I can accept that reality, or I can choose not to. And there's so much beauty around us every single day. And it's up to me to choose the energy that I want to exist in. I can exist in the hurt that don't live no more unless I make it alive. But it happened. It's in the past. It ain't present. That means it's no longer alive. And or I can be fully present and realize I'm good. In this present moment, I'm actually good. And that's what the breath does. Breath allows us to be fully present. It's certain breathing techniques that can calm you. Oftentimes when we having stress or someone's having a panic attack, they're not appropriately breathing. It's only going to their chest.
Mm-hmm.
4 breaths. You have to expand the abdomen. The slower you breathe, the more calm you can become.
Mm-hmm.
And that's present-mindedness. So, yeah.
You had just said something that kind of spoke out to me, and it kind of made me think about, wow, while I'm on this journey, because of course, you know how you tell people I'm trying to heal. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how you tell people, like, you know what, I'm trying to heal, and I believe like the tongue is the most powerful thing on earth, right? So I started telling myself these things, and then I started speaking these things out because I do believe that I'm a healer. But when I first was saying it, I didn't truly believe it. It was just something that I desired to be. So I know that me being a healer, I had to really learn how to control the things that I was thinking, the things that I was feeding my brain. I knew I wanted to only have positive experience. When I first started doing my healing journey, all I used to ask, like when I used to pray, I used to be like, man, God, I just need some patience and strength. Not too much strength because I didn't want to hurt nobody, but I needed enough strength. I needed enough strength that was going to keep me going, to keep me from being in that deep, dark place or whatever. And then once I got to that point where I mastered, or I feel like I mastered patience and strength, I just started asking for peace and love. And once I started asking for peace and love, I'm not gonna lie, that's when I got into like the most darkest moment in my life. And I think last night me and Daru, we was talking about it. A lot of times when we going through these journeys, we think we think we're supposed to have somebody going on these journeys with us. These journeys are supposed to be individualized. So that only way that I'm able to heal anything that I've ever been through is me digging deep inside myself. And it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. It's really dark. It's ugly. It's scary. But just really facing myself, my own demons and stuff like that, it really allowed me to see, like, man, it allowed me to see people for who they are, accept people for who they are. Because a lot of times what we tend to do is romanticize people. You can be in a relationship with somebody, or you even a family member. You love this person so much, you romanticize this person. You just put this person on this pedestal, and we would say this person would never do this to me because we had all these high expectations of them, and then guess what, they do it to us. So just really just I don't know, y'all. It's crazy, but when you really truly go up into this journey, it can get really dark and ugly and lonely and sad. But it's a lot of hard work and it's not easy, but once you really come to grips with everything, it's so rewarding. Like, it's a beautiful thing to really be able to operate out of a place of peace and love.
Ashe.
But the thing about strength is that word does not necessarily mean physical strength. When you trying to keep your cool and not really snap on somebody, it takes a lot of strength to hold yourself back.
Yeah.
Like I
So
literally
much
feel like
easier
my
for me to
body.
smack the shit out you.
Huh?
I said it's so much easier for me to smack the shit out you. You don't know how much restraint it takes for me to hold back. Like for real.
You know what I'm saying? You see, you know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, someone holding you back and you holding yourself back are two different things.
Exactly.
It's two different experiences, and it's stressful. So,
you ever notice that when you're angry, like when you're angry, it feels like when you act on you ever feel like it's feeding your spirit? You know what I'm saying? Like when you talk about like holding yourself back, it's like which spirit are you operating in? And like when Frankie had said earlier, like, yo, you choose what spirit you operate. Like everybody got both wolves. You got the good wolf, the bad wolf.
Mm-hmm.
It's like which one you feed. You ever notice when you get angry, when you give into that anger and you yell and you scream and you act violent, it almost feels like a fire building inside of you. And it's almost like it's feeding off of itself. Versus when you go against it, that restraint, like you choosing a different spirit. Yeah, it's just different. It's just different to go against that spirit and be in control of like which spirit that you sort of give into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
well, like I told my sister, my anger is a dragon. It's a beast.
I would say, man,
I
thought
feel it
was,
all in here and stuff like that. You know, in the movies, and when you see the dragon about to breathe fire, and you see all this is red at first.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's me.
I physically bust out into a sweat. I physically get hot when I get upset. I'm talking about I bust out in a sweat, like I physically turn into fire. I physically turn into fire. And to cool off, one of my, everybody's is different. And one of my grounding techniques is when you use body sensations to sort of ground yourself in the present moment. When I'm trying to calm down, I got to go somewhere cold. Like, I have to put a cold towel on my head, put some ice on my head. I have to ground my body to help me ground, you know what I'm saying, my inner like emotions and stuff like that. Because mine turns into fire.
Yeah.
So
Anger it's a hot energy.
Look, when Beautifully Animated was talking about that whole little thing, the only thing I could think about is Frankie with that whole throat chakra, because we always talk about like me being unable to communicate when I'm upset or I'm frustrated or I need to get something across a lot of times. And then I had bought this book about like Tauruses and stuff because I'm a Taurus, and it was talking about like how certain zodiac signs, there's certain parts of their body that they need to protect. And one of the things was for the Taurus that they had to protect their neck for communication and stuff like that. Like always wear a scarf or something like that. Always make sure you're drinking honey and everything like that, because I guess that's like our power, our throat, because it's our voice. So yeah, I thought about you when she was talking about breathing the whole fire thing.
Is Taurus a fire sign?
It's not. It's an earth sign.
Okay. I'm a fire sign. I'm sad. Bring on the flames. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Shoot. I'm actually working on writing a book about anger and dealing with anger and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to help people.
Yes, anger is a real spirit.
Like, right? It's like it's like I wish I known what I know now back then, and then I wouldn't have to be medicated to handle my anger. Like I want to get people before they even need medication, because once you're on medication for different things and stuff like that, it's hard to get off. You know what I'm saying? And then different things have happened to just like really push down progress and stuff like that,
So do you ever feel yourself having an adverse reaction to the medication? Like, okay, so I know like me and Wheeler, we both work together at the jail with the juveniles. And I'm gonna say over 50% of the population that was medicated. So when you working with these aggressive young youth, you putting the medication really to kind of like slow down the anger and the aggression. When you notice when they skip their medication, they become even more aggressive. they become even more mad. They become angry because it's really nothing to teach them how to deal with that anger, as opposed to we're gonna give them this medication to make them slow down.
Um,
And we just say, anger is a secondary emotion. Anger does not exist unless you experience a primary emotion. It's only
Right. It's a
two.
reaction to something.
No, it's either yes, but it's either an amplification, an intense amplification of a specific emotion, or it's a combination of multiple emotions that we call a storm, and the default is anger. A lot of times we say like, man, my anger is out of control, but anger doesn't exist unless you feel something else. Anger is attached to a primary emotion. If something really makes you angry, we have to identify what that primary emotion is. A lot of times people say, oh, I need anger management. Anger is a secondary emotion. It does not exist without a primary emotion. And in understanding like emotional regulation, you have to either understand, if anger is a problem, then there's probably a primary emotion that triggers you to an intense level where it goes to anger, and or it's a combination of multiple emotions. But anger doesn't exist by itself.
I can agree with that, because I know for like so many years, like I was trying to get like this teacher and this principal to get on the lab, but they had some prearranged obligations where they wasn't able to make it with us today. And I know, like, growing up, I had experienced a lot of sexual things happen to me growing up. And while I was in school, like, I was a straight A honor roll student, and the whole time I was so mad and I was so angry. But I was angry because of the things that was happening to me. So I guess I was angry. Since if you're saying anger is a secondary emotion, I was afraid. I was sad. I felt lonely. I felt all of these things. I felt abandoned. I felt rejected. I felt all of those things as a kid. And then I'm going to school. Yeah, I'm getting good grades, but I was just so angry. I was so mad. And I would get in trouble because I was mad, but nobody never asked. Like, I feel like now being an adult and working in some of the places that I worked at, I know that they have these mandated laws or whatever. You have to be a mandated reporter. And knowing that is just like, okay, well, if these teachers had to be mandated reporter, why they never picked up on any of these things? Like, you have a student that's an outstanding student, but then their behavior is not reflected. It's not like equivalent. So it'd be different if I was like, I was getting D's and F's. I was failing everything. I was fighting and disrespectful. I wasn't fighting. I wasn't doing anything like that. So it made me think about that. Like, I wasn't always angry. I had things happen to me that I felt certain emotions, and then following that, I started feeling angry.
It's very few teachers, though, that really are invested healthily invested in their students to even pick up on the changes and different things that their students are going through.
I don't think that we
And
really
with
come.
like teachers and others in the medical field, is nowadays they're just there to get the money and stuff like that. It's very few people who actually care about their students, about their patients and stuff like that, and people suffer for it because as kids, you need adults to speak on your behalf. That's the only way you'll be taken seriously. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think we come from a culture of understanding things like that. And what I mean by that is this:
Right.
it's like if the normal is angry or something to that nature, then it's like that's just who that person is. And I chose to make that comment because when I was angry, when I was living in anger, to me it was just like, hey, that's the norm. But when I started on my journey, like, um, I knew the anger wasn't me because in the process of, like, I like how you referred to it, beautifully animated, like you see this fire, and I like the way you referred to it too, Tonio. I used to just like see it drawing up in me, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
literally pulling up, and then it would be like I couldn't control it, like the other side of me like shine like, hey, chill out, bro, chill out. But I couldn't control that fire though, you know what I mean. And I think, like, I don't want to like prejudge nobody, but I think like all of us, one way or another, like come from a culture of that. You know what I mean? And I don't think like healing was taught the way that we learning it and understanding it back then for it to even be viewed the way that we viewing it now. I think like for us, like as a culture, as a people, like healing is like an evolution thing for us now because we come from so much previous trauma. It's like shit, we actually the trendsetters now. Like we the ones who really like breaking the new ground. You know what I mean? Because maybe just maybe for a lot of us, we the first healers in our family, or the first people who like damn near whole or choosing to take that journey. Like man, I need to understand why I think, why I feel, why I perceive things the way that I do. So I don't even think we can really knock the teachers. I just like some Jasmine said last night, like with me understanding what I understand now, like when you was talking about when you with you being a mother, he was like, I gotta do better now. You know what I mean? And I think the dopest thing that we can do is actually do podcasts like this. Another thing I'm gonna say was like, for me, I truly thought I was the only one going through stuff like this. Like real talk. When I say I thought it was just me, because a lot of the people I was surrounded with, bringing it to them is just like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? I guess it's just me.
No,
Like
the thing
they
is,
ain't comprehend it, you know. Go
they
ahead.
might have been like, "Oh, okay," because they're used to it. My
Yeah,
family, short
yeah,
tempers run in our like this crap is inherited. Okay, I
yeah.
didn't see my no my people lose their cool and black out. That was my first introduction to anger. Was me blacking out and choking a kid, and
You was a
everybody's in the
kid,
panic.
you was a
Huh?
kid when this happened?
My first, yeah,
Okay.
I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, whatever. And
And see,
that was my first experience with anger, and I freaking blacked out. I had no control. It was like I was Terminator, but it was a silent movie because I couldn't hear anything. Like I can remember everything that I see when I black out, but I cannot hear nothing.
Yeah.
And thank God that it's always been instilled in me to not hurt innocent people, because you can just grab my hand. I'll stop because I'm not gonna drag you down with me trying to get to somebody. I'll stop as long as you hold me and you can snap me out of it, whatever. Like innocent people will not get hurt, and that's just being a blessing.
yeah,
Podcast, you got something you want to say?
But
Hold on one second.
um
Podcast, you got
um
something to say?
oh
Um, I mean, not specifically. If you got a question for me, I'll definitely answer it though.
No, we just having a general conversation about trauma and healing. That's all. So you can jump in whenever you're ready. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. You can go ahead, Daru.
yeah, I was gonna say beautifully animated. I totally agree with that, but mine was a little different. I would black out, but I wouldn't remember nothing. Honestly, it'd just be like I just hear voices, and then I come to in the middle or something. You know what I mean? It was so many times where I came to in the middle of a fight, and I do not recall nothing that happened. I just come to and somebody swinging at me, and I'm in my head like, oh shh. And so many people would be like, man, bro, you got on beast mode out of nowhere. And I'd be like laughing it off, but in my head, like, yo, I don't even remember how this stuff even started. You know what I mean? So that's when I
right.
realized like the anger is a lot deeper for me because I just remember like, I don't know, maybe we arguing. And then like I say, I just come to and we full blown, fighting. And I'm trying to figure out who swung first, like what was actually said. Did somebody walk in somebody's face? Did I step up to him? Did he step up to me? And it was so crazy because people used to be like, man, I'll line Rue up against anybody in the hood. And I'm like, nah, that ain't just like y'all don't realize like something actually going on with me. Like, I don't understand why I'm violent like this. You know what I mean? And I think like
But
one of the real things, and I'm gonna go back, like I said, like the trauma. I think that sometimes we experience stuff and we just suffocate it down. Like I think that was you, Antonio. You was
yeah,
like, anger is a secondary emotion, like it's triggered from something else. You know what I mean? And like that's what caused me to go on my journey. Like, yo, I got to figure out why I'm angry like this, man, for real.
They have three
yeah, because
different
like
parts of your brain. Like You have the prefrontal cortex that controls rational thought and critical thought. Then you have the amygdala. The amygdala controls your emotions. That's when you're overwhelmed. Then you have the reptilian part of your brain. Your reptilian part of your brain is your fight, flight, or freeze. Reptilian part of the brain is responsible for survival. When it's time for survival, that's not something that you think about. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this was your brain, right? This is the front. Like, this part is sort of connected to your spine. That part is the reptilian part of your brain. That's responsible for survival. Hunger, fight, flight, or freeze. When it's fight, flight, freeze, you don't pick fight, flight, or freeze. Some people are like, oh, I would do this. But when it just cuts off, it cuts off. And your only job is survival. So sometimes when there are particular parts of the brain that get overstimulated, that may be why you don't remember. When I first went to therapy, it was actually because I was working in the gym. They real life showed me footage of myself, and I don't remember doing it. In my mind, he pushed me, called me a bitch, did that. They showed me the tape, and I'm like, I don't remember none of that. But it was because my brain was overstimulated. There are certain parts, each part of your brain have its own function. And there are certain times when it can be overstimulated, which impacts memory. So that's why sometimes you go to therapy, you have bottom-up therapy and top-down therapy. Top-down therapy is sometimes when you've been traumatized and you don't even remember what happened to you. Because sometimes your brain just shuts down because it's just so overwhelmed, and the only thing that it's functioning on is just surviving. And so sometimes that impacts its ability to sit there and remember certain parts of that incident. And that's when they got to sort of do certain type of therapy to get you to understand. But that's because one part of your brain is activated. Rational thought and emotions exist in two separate parts of your brain. That's why sometimes you can get angry and you can do this. And then all of a sudden you think back later like, man, that was stupid. Why the hell did I do that? You the one that did it. At the time, you thought this is what you wanted to do. That's because there was a different part of your brain that was activated. And sometimes in traumatic experience, the other parts are shut down, which impacts your ability to memorize it because there's the reptilian part is so activated. It's so focused on survival. Hey, I don't have time to think about it. Hey, it's time to go beast mode because we got to get up out this situation. You ain't thinking logically. You ain't thinking emotionally. Hey, it's survival time. So that's partly why, but memory also exists in the amygdala part of the brain. So certain times there are certain parts of the brain that's more highly activated, which affects your memory because it's the brain that's being overstimulated in a particular part.
Yeah, it makes sense because like I say, my blackout, like I can see what's going on, but I can't control it. I can't snap myself out of a blackout. It's like,
but that's by the brain being so overstimulated in that portion. That's the rest of it is not functioning. That's affecting your memory. That's affecting your rational thought. Where you're so stimulated with this part, then hijack the rest of your brain. When you get in when people are like, oh, I was in my feeling. Yo, that's a particular part of the brain that's more activated than the rest. That's why they have certain evidence-based therapy that try and get the prefrontal cortex. That's what EMDR is, where that's basically what therapy is. Therapy is taking a traumatic event and they're trying to get you to think about it logically. They're trying to get you to take something that made you feel, whether it's sexual abuse, they're trying to get you to take something that made you feel overly stimulated, you know what I'm saying, that impacted your brain or impacted you. And they're trying to get you to be able to talk about it objectively, for you to be able to accept it, for you to be able to rationalize it. They're just trying to change the narrative, but it's trying to move from the traumatic part to the prefrontal cortex for it to be objective. This is something that happened to me. I'm no longer in that situation. I am safe now. In order for you to do that, you have to look at it rationally. So they're trying to move it from one part of the brain to the next. That's in a nut. It sounds, that's the cliff notes of what therapy is. They're just trying to get you to change the narrative on something that you experienced from it being overwhelming to a point that you can rationalize and understand and move past.
You know what, Wheeler? It's funny that you say that because you were saying that's what therapy is, right? So, and I'm not trying to make like light of the situation. Seeing that I had experienced a lot of sexual trauma growing up or whatever. I remember when I went to therapy. I was referred to this therapist by one of my friends, and she was like, he's a good therapist. So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, somebody Black, I'm supporting somebody Black. I didn't too much feel comfortable with, I don't know why I didn't feel comfortable going to a woman therapist as opposed to a man therapist saying that I was sexually assaulted by a man. And in the midst of the therapy,
You said you didn't feel comfortable with women?
I did not. I don't know why I did.
Okay.
I don't know why I did it. Yeah. But I did the therapy with the guy. The first therapy session, it was cool. He made me feel extremely comfortable. Of course, he's talking about I guess because of what I experienced, me being a young woman, experiencing that with people of the opposite sex. What he did was, I guess, ask questions about the men in my life, like my father, my brother, different relationships that I had. And then he invited me back for a second session. When we did the second session, he just jumped straight into it. And I don't know if he saw that I was like super vulnerable or was in a really dark place, because at this point I had just attempted to commit the S word. And I felt like I needed help. So I don't know if he was just like, this person is just so broken, I'm gonna try to take advantage of her. But he was like, I'm gonna bathe you. So I'm thinking he's talking about like a spiritual bath. I'm not understanding what this meant. He actually wanted to bathe me. This was a therapist. And I've never went back, but I just feel like even then in that situation, me being a victim of that, I'm going to seek professional help. Here you had this professional still trying to exploit me based off you get what I'm saying, Wheeler?
Yeah. That's not a representation of therapy. That's a representation of an individual doing something inappropriate.
Right.
He got in the right field to be a predator. That's what happened.
Yeah. So for a long time, I stopped going to therapy for a long time. It wasn't up until I want to say the last year or two, when I started losing people in my family. I'm like, you know what, man, I've never healed from this trauma. Everybody is dropping like flies. I walked away from my job. Being an entrepreneur just got extremely hard. So I had like all of these extra factors going on. I'm like, you know what? I really need some help. So I started seeking professional help. And then after I seek professional help, I'm like, man, it felt like I was my therapist because she was doing all the talking and I can talk. And I could talk. So that's when I started doing the whole sound healing thing with Frankie this past year. And I realized, like, even with that, it's like therapy without even opening your mouth. Like, I've never just laid on the table, listened to certain sounds, and it just triggered something in me. And all I did was just cry. And once I cried, it was just like all of the emotions that I felt like I was suppressing, it just kind of like went away, because a lot of times something bad happened to us and we just keep going on. Like you said, your trigger is like if something happened for y'all get like so mad, y'all get angry, y'all turn red, you start turning to dragons and all types of stuff. And I just start turning to all types of stuff. But for me, when I get upset, I just shut down. Like I shut down. I act like nobody exists. The world don't exist. The people in my life don't exist. I just turn into a ghost. I shut down completely. So here I am. I'm shutting down. But once I did the first session, the first time I did it, I was like, really, I was rejecting the idea, because of course it's my best friend that's doing it. I'm always being silly and goofy. I'm laughing, and I just didn't take it seriously. But then when I went back the second time, I'm like, you know what? I need to allow myself to be open so that I can receive what it is that I'm supposed to be getting. And I just cried so hard. Like I've never thought that I can cry, because I never cry about anything. I always just tell myself, like, whatever it is, like, just tell myself in the back of my mind, like, it don't matter. If it don't kill you, it make you stronger. Or saying stuff like, if you can control your emotions, you can control the situation. Just reading these books and stuff, just telling you not to feel anything. And I programmed myself not to feel anything for so many years. Even though I was feeling it, I was thinking it, I knew the things happened to me, but I was just pushing it in the back of my brain, really suppressing it. And then once that happened, it allowed me to just like be present with myself and accept the fact that stuff did happen to me.
I do think
you do have to go shopping.
I do think that there's multiple ways to address it. Like I do think that the spiritual, because it's mind, body, and spirit. But I will say that like you have people that do bad jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like but I would say as a therapist, hey man, the first thing I do, I don't go into no deep dark forest with anybody my first couple of sessions. The first thing I got to do is build rapport. It's not a plug. Hey, I call my business Anchored in Wellness. I need to find out what your anchors are. Anchors are what you drop during a storm. When it's a storm, a ship drops its anchor. The anchor's job is only to keep us in place to survive the storm. Before I go in your deep dark forest or traumas and things that happen to you, I need to know your protective factors. I need to know your support system. I need to know your strengths. I need to know like who it is that you can talk to. I need to know how to regulate you. I don't even ask people about their traumatic experience until we've met at least 4 or 5 times. We need to be a month in and have some type of rapport. Because if I'm asking you about a traumatic experience and I don't know you, how do I regulate you once you didn't get triggered? You didn't came to therapy and you talking to me about something that happened to you as a child. Now you crying, your hours up, and now it's time for you to go back to the world. If I don't know you well enough to be able to get you to a point of you feeling regulated and you feeling safe, then I'm not going to ask you a traumatic question. I have to know you to the point where I can understand, hey, if you do get triggered, we have a rapport where I know how to bring you back to safety. I know how to drop the anchor and we can ask certain questions. But before you leave, you need to be regulated before you leave that session. And so just even based off that, like therapy, like the first month, 2 months is just building rapport. It's just building rapport. It's just trying to understand you because you're the variable. You may have had sexual abuse. You may have had this, and the third, but you're the variable. It's not a matter of like what you've experienced. It's how it impacted you. And I need to understand what your strengths are. That before we go in this dark forest, I need to leave gingerbread crumbs of when we get in this forest, I know how to take us back home before this session ends. So I think like that's just failure of that particular person. And that particular person may impact the way you feel about the profession, but I also do feel like it's alternative ways around it. But in my practice, I focus on anchors. I focus on your strength. Don't tell me the bad stuff first. The first month, I want to know your strength. I want to know what I want to know what you're proud of. I want to know who you can talk to. I want to know what are the strengths and what are the positive things in your life before I even ask you something traumatic.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frankie. We can't hear you, Frankie. Frankie trying to hit his angles.
Hey, Antonio, I want to say that's what's up, man. Actually, I had reached out to you. You had the event a few weeks ago, right? Like Black Men. Yeah, I know. I ended up being stuck on the road, and when you were just saying, like, that's why my thing is getting to me. Like, dang, I reached out to him. I remember, I was trying to find a link or something like that. I had inboxed you about it, and yeah, you had sent me the thing to register for it.
Which that was actually a super dope event. I'm talking to Frankie get himself together. But that was actually a super dope event. When I went there, even though it was mainly for like boys, well, it was I guess it was catered to boys and men. I learned a lot about myself in that. Hold on, I think I gotta let him back in. In that event, I learned that I had an issue with rejection. I really learned that I had an issue with rejection, and it's crazy because I do things to enhance myself spiritually, and in the midst of me doing what I do, I'm still trying to get Frankie to come up here, but I don't know what happened. I don't know why he down there at the bottom. But yeah, make a long story short, I went there and I'm listening to some of the guys and I'm talking, I'm at home because I do a lot of reading and writing. I get home and I'm like, you know what? I realized that I really had an issue with rejection. And I know me and Frankie talk about it all the time. He used to always like, you got a problem with rejection? I'm like, no, I don't have a problem with rejection, but I didn't realize it until that day. I went home, I was doing my little journaling, which I typically do in the morning when I first wake up, which is another tool that I use to kind of like help me heal through whatever it is that I'm going through, just making sure I'm keeping a daily log of how I'm feeling, how I'm operating, some of my goals and stuff like that. So I realized like, damn, I'm writing because I'm also working on a book as well, called Love Wins. And I realized like, you know what? The first person that rejected me was my dad. Then I felt like it was my mom, then my aunt, then everybody around me was rejecting me. And I don't know how to let him back in because my computer won't let me go back. He trying to.
I'm gonna let you go back on StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm trying to. All right, there you go. There you go.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Y'all know I'm a little retired when it comes to this tech. So yeah, I realized like I had like this big issue with rejection, and I'm like, man, I started putting two and two together. But then I realized like, what I had to do is once I decided to make that decision to become whole and heal, I had to look at my parents and the other people in my life and say, you know what? at the time they probably was doing the best thing that they thought that was appropriate for them at the time. She probably thought she was being the best mother. He probably thought that he was being the best at whatever it was that he called himself doing, my dad. And a lot of times we want our parents and the people in our life to be perfect. Even as a kid, like my baby, she think I'm rich and she think I'm perfect, but I'm not. I would have to let her know, like, I'm not rich, I'm not perfect. We rolling with the punches and we just figuring this life thing out. And if I make a mistake, I apologize because I'm not perfect. And that's something that our parents can do for us. They'll pop you, won't even apologize, and they know they're wrong. So when I'm wrong, I'm always having that open dialogue with my child, letting her know that, look, mama's sorry. I ain't know
That's
no
what
better.
I am too.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we got to realize, like, after us, they coming right after us. They coming right after us. And if I want to be the change that I wish to see, I'm starting with myself and then I'm passing that torch down to her. But even with that whole rejection piece, it made me realize, like, I had to look at them for who they was and not who I wanted them to be. And I started to accept my mom for who she was, my dad, and everybody else in my life. And it allowed me to give them grace, because now I'm doing things and I have somebody looking to me for everything, and I want her to give me grace. So it allowed me to say, you know what, let me have some patience with this person, because I know that this person is doing the best they knew how. Frankie, where you go? Where you go? Anybody want to jump in until you get back?
The thing with kids is they're so easily disrespected because adults don't think kids deserve respect. They think in that relationship only the adult deserves respect. No, children need to be respected as well because they are people. And it gets me. It's like laughable how these adults will act like kids don't have issues because they're kids and stuff like that. Like, you done forgot how it was to be a kid, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Kids have kid problems, but they're still problems.
Mm-hmm.
And not all kids are having kid problems, they're having adult problems.
That's another trauma thing right there, the emotional incest. You get me? Or you have a lot of parents, they putting their responsibility off on their children. I know a lot of young boys, they may experience it, especially if their father is not in the house. A lot of young boys experience that emotional incest. And then sometimes you have the little girls that experience it when their parents are out trying to take care of the family, and it may not be intentional. It may be that the mother don't have nobody else to keep these kids. So now I ain't got nobody to keep these kids, and I'm doing the best that I'm trying to do, and you gonna watch these little kids for me while I go to work and pay these bills. So you really putting that responsibility off on that child, so that child don't even get a chance to grow up and have a good childhood because they too busy being grown. They being grown all the time. And then when something happened, now they bumping heads with other adults. And it's just like, shit, when my mom and them gone, I'm grown. You gotta answer to me. Like, I experienced that when I stayed with my aunt. Whenever she wasn't at home, I was always responsible for keeping her kids. And now, like, me and her kids not that far in age, but then when you look at it as little kids, you get it. But whenever she was there, I'm keeping the kids, and next thing you know, I'm getting into it with the neighbors because she done told me if they got a problem, tell them to take it up with you. Man, I'm just like, come on now, Frankie. Nobody was trying to fight Larissa. Nobody was trying to fight that woman. Okay, I'm a whole kid. They calling DCFS trying to get us taken because I'm listening to her. So that can be triggering too. The whole emotional incest piece.
Yeah.
Can you all hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was trying to talk. I say, damn, they gonna keep over talking me, huh? I know y'all couldn't I want to touch on the blackouts from earlier. I was trying to chime in with that.
Okay.
Spiritually, energetically, when you black out and you don't remember what you've done, you don't recall your actions, the spirit of anger has overcome you. It's an actual spirit. So you yourself you're not in control of the will anymore. You've allowed your emotions to become so imbalanced that these spirits that are always, remember, this is always in you. It ain't outside of you, it's in you. That's why you can turn it on, turn it off at any single moment. And since it's in you, our senses, the world around us can trigger these things for us, can trigger our emotionality. And in Yoruba, we call it Iwa Pele. It's cool character, cool hiddenness. And that's what keeps you in balance and in alignment. It's you're in the middle. So your emotions aren't too hot, your emotions aren't too cold. You're right there. You're in a peaceful, balanced state. And when we're running hot, we allow so many spirits and entities to come into, that's what demons respond. Demons are outside of us. It's a demon for heroin, right? It's certain characteristics that when someone's on heroin, you know right away. They call it the monkey on your back. You can always tell because spirits, drugs carry spirits. We carry them. They're always around us. And in Europe, Elanini are negative entities or energies that attach themselves to negative emotions. So therapy can't get rid of them. Reiki can't get rid of them. Only you can because you manifested them, right? And so that has everything to do with your emotionality. You are absolutely in control of how you feel. You are absolutely in control with how you feel. Me and his brother, Walt Wheeler, we're just reminders for you to get back center and ground. We don't do the work. You have to make the decision to want to feel better. We're just reminders. That's all we do. People heal themselves. Anybody that's telling you that they can heal you, it's a lie.
So
The
I've been
body is
lying.
so powerful. The brain is so powerful. It's an intelligent machine on its own. We use these things around us to get us back into balance, but the body and the mind does it on its own.
So I guess I've been lying to people, telling people that I can heal them because I'm a healer.
Hey, real talk, man. Sometimes I be in therapy. I don't be doing nothing deep. I just be repeating what they subconscious said to me in the session. Like a lot of times, it be like, yo, they already know the answers. Like we just be sorting it out. We just be sifting through their mind and organize it. But yo, I just facilitate the space for change. I don't change nobody.
Yeah.
Your therapist doesn't help you. A lot. If he's a really good therapist, or he or she is a really good therapist, or they, whatever the pronoun. If they're a really good therapist, all they're doing is reflecting back what's in you. I can't tell you how many times I had sex. All I'm doing is repeating something that you said. I'm just saying it in a more organized manner. And
so in that aspect,
well, that's what people need. Some people need organization of what they're dealing with because it's chaos. So yeah, sometimes we do need an outside person to put it in order for us, to understand it.
So do you think it's the whole the organization piece, or do you think it's that because that individual may need some form of validation? They need you to validate what they're feeling is real.
Well, Frankie said, it's what they need is what they need. They're going to tell you that whether or not it's validation or whether or not it's organization, they're going to tell you. When I go to therapy is jazz. I have no idea what you need. It's really talking through it and reflecting back, asking the right questions to help you discover for yourself what it is that you need. You know what I'm saying? So whether that's validation or organization is up to that person. My job is to explore and ask the right question for you to find yourself. And once again, I'm not changing you. It's like Marco Polo in the dark. I'm just asking you the right questions for you to be able to come to the conclusion on your own of what it is that you need. So it's really just getting you to be able to, it's really providing a space for your subconscious to have a space to be projected for you to be able to see it. Because we're asking certain questions that may be existing, but you haven't taken the time to really tap into yourself to really hear your own thoughts. And I'm just a mirror reflecting it back to you. Right. That's all I am. All I'm doing is reflecting back to you what's in your subconscious of what it is that you need. I'm not guiding this ship and telling us where to go. You know what I'm saying? I'm just taking the data in. My job as an analysis is just to take the data in and, hey, this is what you told me. This is what your subconscious is telling my rational mind. What do you make of it?
Marco.
So look, I know last night when me and Daru was speaking, he was talking about being up in this trauma seeking phase and like some of the bias that you experience. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll go into it. I really don't recollect the bias though, but I'll say this.
against
Um,
the uncolored folk. And you was talking about like angry
oh,
and like
yeah, yeah,
recognizing triggers and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. So what happened with the situation was this. I experienced something in like seventh grade that caused me to believe that I was actually born racist, and that's how bad the trauma was for me. Excuse the
Wait, hold
verbiage.
on. Repeat that.
I experienced something in seventh grade,
Mm-hmm.
and it caused me like the trauma from it caused me to believe that I was born racist. See,
Oh, okay.
at one point in time, excuse the language, I just thought white people was light skinned niggas, right, with good hair. That was my perception. Like, y'all just light skinned black people, y'all just got straight hair. That was it. And I remember
Yeah.
I was in seventh grade. We had just learned about like Fred Hampton them, right? I didn't know that stuff actually happened in Chicago. So we learned that stuff that day, and it was basically like saying it without saying it, like, yeah, they hate us because we black. And I'm like, whatever, man. I can't, whatever, man. And I remember walking home from school, police pulled up on me, and they like, come here. I walked to the car, no issue. They asked me who I was, where I was coming from, etc. I tell them, and then they say, step back from the car. I step back from the car. Three of them bail out, and I mean immediately he me on the car face first. Now this is the end of the school year when we was learning this, because I remember we was learning like the preamble, the U.S. Constitution, and all that. So you know it's just like May and June. So when he slammed me on the car, he slammed me face first. You know, he was choking me with his in the back of my neck with his left hand and smashing my face into the car with his right hand. And I just remember hollering like, "Yo, you burning my face! You burning my face!" etc. And I remember like he reached up so high, like he was finna dunk, and he smacked me so hard I literally seen like Star Tweety Bird floating around my head. And when he let me go, he basically like grabbed me and threw me and was like, you know, get the F on, nigga. And I remember like walking away, asking myself, like, why he do that to me? You know what I mean? Like, what did I do? Like, I just kept trying to figure out, like, what did I do? And as I was walking away, honestly, I just remember like inhaling this dark cloud. You know what I mean? And I remember when I got in the house, I looked in the mirror, and one side of my face looked like it was just like dust all over it, and it was blistered. And the other side, you could literally see that man handprints in my face. And I could just remember looking in the mirror, saying to myself, like, that'll never happen to me again. And to be real, I I won't call I suppressed it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot about it, right? So my life changed again 4 years ago. December of 2018, I got a triple organ transplant. I got a new heart, liver, and kidney. So it was like, I said to myself, like, damn, I got a purpose here. It's a reason why I survived such a major surgery, 17 hours. So it caused me to start like looking into myself, you know what I mean? And when I started looking into myself, the first thing I wanted to understand was like, why the hell am I so angry? And the girl who I was involved with, her best friend was a Caucasian chick, right? So I used to want to be around her to see like what my triggers were, like to see if I had any internal triggers with anything she said, with the way she would look, or anything like that, because I couldn't understand like why I would get so angry when it came to white people. But I noticed like anytime it has something to do with violence, like just seeing it on Facebook or something like that, like I literally like see a level bar. You know how like the sound bar be when you're speaking? I literally see like the anger bar in me just like jumping like that. So I'm like, okay, whatever wrong with me, it got something to do with anger, although I get angry over it. And then I just chose to start paying attention to my own personal thoughts. And when I started paying attention to it, maybe after like 3 weeks of trying to like steadily focus on it, I just had this huge epiphany. And the epiphany was the story that I just told y'all. And I'm like,
Right.
holy shit. Now, that happened when I was 12, right? I was 32 when I discovered it. And I'm like, holy shit, I've been walking around 20 years angry as fuck. You know what I mean? And to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, like I said, for me, forgiveness is acceptance, right? So when I accept it, like, dang, that's what happened to me. It ain't nothing I can do to change that situation. I was able to get past it. And to be honest, like, my surgery made world history in the health arena. So I had a lot of Caucasians like, yo, Daru this, come on, come on, come on. But I wouldn't mess with none of them because in my head, I'm like, y'all niggas trying to kill me. But I didn't understand because it would be like, you know how we talked about the anger. It'd be like, oh, the dragon part when we like black out and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
know, come back to self. Like in the process of the anger roaring up, like hell no, I ain't fucking with them. All this, all that. I feel like the bigger me, the I am, would be like, whoa, yo, chill, chill. Look, we need to think about this, and it would be like in me, I would be having this internal debate, like with who I am,
Mm-hmm.
the anger built up inside of me. You know what I mean? And it was always just like a struggle, man. You know, like I would never talk about to nobody about it because I didn't want to be diagnosed with like bipolar or something like that because I know
They
I
love diagnosing people.
yeah. I was like, I'm not gonna allow these people to just diagnose me like it's something bigger than just saying bipolar, like it gotta be something. And that's when I learned, like, damn, like trauma got a voice in the mind of its own. Like we store trauma and specific data actually in our body. You know what I mean? So it was like that changed my whole perspective on who they are because honestly, being racist, I felt contradictory, right? Because I didn't want them like, oh shit, here go this 6'1", 220-pound black man coming in the room. He probably finna snatch my purse. You know, I don't want them doing that to me, right? So I don't like I feel bad doing it to them, and I would literally like battle myself about it. But I came to that conclusion, like, damn, like this specific event right here, one event in my life changed my whole perception on life as a whole. You know what I mean? And again, it was like, damn, I walked around 20 years angry at the world, you know. And honestly, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I just black out in the middle of a fight. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how and I just I come to, and everybody be like, man, G, you was on beast mode out of nowhere.
So I
And I,
got a question for you, Daru, since you already talking about your story, and you recognizing that you had triggers and what was
yeah,
triggering you, and you didn't find out your trigger until like 20 years later. Do you think your trauma caused you to fail anybody that you loved, or yeah, anyone that loved you or somebody you loved?
um, I don't think my trauma caused me to fail anybody. I think that I probably left people hurt unintentionally, and what I mean by that, it was like with me not being able at them times to figure out who I am, I would just leave the situation. And some people, it's like I didn't know how to put this situation that I'm explaining now in words for people, you know, because I think that um, most people just don't understand it. I think it's certain stuff in order for you to understand it, you have to experience it, you know. So it's like talking to somebody and trying to explain it, and it's like they don't understand it. And then I found myself talking in a circle, you know, trying to explain it, and they still don't get it. So yeah, I guess I would say I left some people hurt, you know, but it was never unintentional. It was just like I got to figure out who I am, you know, and that goes back to what Jasmine said earlier. I had actually made the comment to her last night. Like, I think one of the most powerful things that happened to me was like breaking up with my ex-girlfriend because I was with her and I was trying to heal. And I thought that you can heal in a relationship. And it was like after we broke up, you know, I'm in this big, huge 3-bedroom apartment and it's just me versus me. You know what I mean? So I got the opportunity to look within myself. And that's when I realized, like, dang, you cannot heal being in a relationship. Like you need that a long time. And it was like I just came to that conclusion. Like I need to be by myself in order to fix the situation. So me needing to be by myself hurt people because they didn't understand like the journey that I'm on and the places that I'm
Right.
going in life.
You was explaining
Um,
something about you. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna ask one last question. And you were saying something about you being able to explain. You was trying to explain something. So I think I had a long discussion with a friend, and we was talking about the difference between sympathy and empathy. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went to Wheeler event the following day, and he was talking about the difference between sympathy and empathy. So, do you think, like, when you was explaining to your loved one at that particular time, that she was willing to be open and receiving, or you just talking because you want her to see your perspective? Because it's a difference when you just having a conversation and you telling somebody I'm going through X, Y, and Z, as opposed to that person being open and understanding. So for me, like when I look at empathy, and I know everybody always pulling up these terms, but when I look at empathy, it's like me allowing myself to be understanding to what it is that you're going through, or whatever it is that you're feeling. I'm allowing myself to be, I'm opening up my mind, my heart, and my soul so that I can understand you. A lot of times, when you have those situations and people don't understand you, the first thing they do is reject everything about you, everything you're saying. They dismiss every statement that you're making. But to truly understand somebody is really putting in that energy and that effort. So if I don't understand what it is that you're trying to get across to me, I'm asking you questions like, could you explain it to me? And I know a lot of times when men and women have these situations, some men may feel like a woman is interrupting them or being disrespectful or whatever the case may be. But do you think that she was really putting herself in that position where she was trying to fully understand you and ask questions to understand what it is that you were saying? Because if that was the case, then that would be completely different.
Okay, so when I look at empathy, I look at it the same way that you do, an attempt to basically put yourself in the other person's shoes to perceive their perspective on things, right? Um, what I realized was I was just dealing with a completely different type of individual. And what I mean is like, all right, we can all say we've been on a journey or on a journey, right?
Yeah.
Compared to other people who have no interest in what this journey is. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like we
Mhm.
got self-aware people and then we have non-self-aware people. So I was dealing with a person, and I think you talked about this last or a little bit ago. You was like, some people just point the finger at everybody else. No, I think that was you, Zan Frank. You were saying like how some people point the finger at everybody else and nobody looks within themselves. And I was dealing with one of those type of people. So it was like, why not blame it on somebody else type of thing? And I'm like, nah, like this come from within. You know what I mean? And that was just the big thing. It was just I don't know, like trying to explain a college equation to a child or something like that. Like the mindset just wasn't, there. You know how we all, regardless of how we say it, we think different. We all think on different levels, vibe on different levels. And that's the thing. She just didn't have the energy to, vibe at that place and at that level to comprehend the stuff that I was giving off. It's just like you're intellectual, in my opinion. You
Well,
wouldn't be like, and you can't dialogue with a, I don't know, just an unintelligent person. You know what I mean? And that's really what it was.
because it sounds like she didn't have empathy or sympathy. Because the thing is, like, for me, empathy is somebody who is sympathizes without the experience.
No, so
Like
let me say this.
sympathy,
I don't.
sympathy to me is someone having similar experiences and they really know what you're going through is sympathy. But empathy is understanding without the knowledge. You may not necessarily understand, but you're there to support that person because you know they're going through something.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
I want to say something real quick. Um, I used that relationship as an example because that was a big stepping stone for me, right? It was like
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of a stepping stone for my trying to see after I had that surgery. First off, I walked around 4 years sick, right? So it was like I felt like I needed a woman because I had a bad heart, right? I felt like I needed a woman because I wanted somebody to be there to support me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a bad heart, right? So just walking from the kitchen to my bedroom, I mess around and black out. Wake up on the floor like, damn, how long was I out? Because I didn't have my phone on me. I don't remember looking at what time it was. Like, how long was I out, right? So for me, originally, like when I was sick, a relationship was a crutch for me, right? So after I got my
Mm-hmm.
new heart, my new liver, my new kidney, it was like at first I was damn near still stuck in that mindset. You know what I mean? Like we was totally vibing together, but it was like I felt like it was more like a trauma bond, right? And I was growing out of that state because I'm like, nah, Rue, like it just wasn't adding up to me. You know what I mean? So it wasn't nothing particularly towards her. It was just people can say they understand you, but they don't understand you. All they can do is try because you haven't walked in their shoes. You haven't experienced the things that I went through. You know, everybody was looking at me like, damn, you 29 years old, dude. How did you need a new heart, liver, and kidney? So they can't they can try to sympathize, but I don't want a pity party. Like, I don't want people crying. I want you to tell me, like, hey, get the fuck up, bro. Like, you can still do this. You know what I mean? I don't want you to cry for me because if you crying, like, now I feel like it ain't no hope left.
Yeah.
Well, to me, there's a difference between sympathy and pity.
No, sympathy and pity, I think, is the same thing. I think,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Sympathy is pity. Sympathy
yes,
is pity. Empathy is understanding.
yes. So that was the thing.
Oh,
I
then
don't
I don't.
want a pity party. I don't.
It's okay.
Then that's something I don't do. I'm
Now, honestly, I had to
I'm
look at the
empathetic,
definition.
but I don't pity nobody. That's
Yeah.
I pity the food cold late.
right.
Yeah, I commend you, brother, on your healing, and your newfound awareness to make sure that you're staying cool headed, because we don't realize that those negative emotions affect our organs spiritually, energetically. So the more we hold on to the anger, to the rage, to the sadness,
Right.
we're actually taking away our own personal life force. And that's what happens. So it can't really be explained when someone like, well, at this age, how could, and you know the amount of anger that you will store in your body. And over time, it just builds up, and there's no energy. It's stagnant energy. No, it's no new cells growing to those areas. No flow happening to those organs anymore. So they're just, the life force is just shrinking and leaving day by day. So yeah, that's the power. Like, it's nothing more for me. Emotional intelligence is it's the highest form of intelligence, because you can't do anything if you're not feeling good. No matter who you are, your job, if you're out of balance emotionally, it can't happen. Cannot happen. And I think that's what that's what we should be teaching children early on, is emotional intelligence, how to stay cool headed, how to not be bothered, how to be detached, because the world is always going to be all of the things that it is. But how can you make sure that your inner world is of peace and balance and love and joy?
But you know what's so crazy that you said that that's what we should be teaching our children, right? Like, I know growing up in the city, going to the schools in the city, they never taught that. Being out here, my baby, she's in a Manuka school district, and mainly Caucasian folk. I'm gonna say that. In a way, they teaching those kids, they teaching the Caucasian kids that how to control their emotions when something happened, how not to stress over things that's out of your control. I've never had a teacher growing up in my life tell me anything like that. So it's like, it's a complete difference. Like, when you say that, that's something that we should be teaching our kids, especially in the Black schools, because I think they're teaching them that in these white schools too. Now, I don't know what to say about little Billy coming up there with the guns. I don't know. Maybe he didn't grasp the concept, but all I know is, like, they definitely teaching them certain things, because I know, like, she have a student in the class, and he has like a mental behavior, and then they have one that has like a some type of disorder, and they're teaching them, like, okay, well, he is who he is, and because he is who he is, that doesn't mean that you have to respond a certain way. So even if it makes you angry, you don't have to express that you angry. You don't let nobody see that you angry. Just let him be himself and learn how to control your own self. Like, that's what they're teaching them in the class.
I would say, I just want to say before I get too far gone, there's no way I can be empathetic if I don't understand my own emotions. To understand how someone else is feeling and to empathize and to be able to put yourself in them shoes, that's third dimensional. That's third part. That means that you're able to objectify your feelings and understand their feelings. That does not happen if you don't understand your own self. Like that self-awareness, that social emotional learning, that emotional intelligence, you are incapable of being empathic if you are not self-aware of yourself. And sometimes with people, they can't understand where it is that you're at, because they may not be able to even understand where they're at in the first person. And sometimes we put that on people, like, oh, I'm dating this woman, she doesn't understand me. Does she understand herself? So I just wanted to say that.
I'm not gonna lie, like that made me think about some personal stuff, like for real, because a lot of times we be trying to change people and we want people to understand us so bad. Like we want them to, man, we just hold them tight, like listen to what it is that I'm telling you, and we just not understanding like why they're not grasping what it is. No matter how remedial we may put it to them, they still not understanding. It's just like, man, this person can't understand me because they don't even understand themselves. I never thought about it like that.
It goes back to frequency. When you view people as frequency, like we think that because a person is of a certain age, then they should have these specific qualities and mannerisms and ways of being. But our trauma sets us back. Like your age really isn't your age if you're still stuck in the trauma. And
they do say
that
you're
again.
Stuck there. I said, yeah, I've heard that too. That you're stuck at the age of trauma.
Yeah, and so like we oftentimes when you see an adult man, you feel like he's that age, and we put these expectations on, well, you're a man. This is how you should be. This is how you should behave. This is how you should treat women. But he's an adolescent. He isn't capable of fully understanding how to treat people because he lacked the understanding of self.
I always say that like you should be mentally and emotionally healthy before getting into a relationship. Oh,
She dropped out.
Are we still? Yeah, I think
we're
she gotta come back.
Good.
But you can't really be there for the other person if you're not mentally, emotionally healthy. You can't see people for who they are if you're not in the right mindset. You know what I'm saying? It's like being in a relationship with blinders on. You can't see straight when you're not in the right mindset.
Absolutely.
And I believe in teaching kids that they deserve respect as well. Yeah. And teaching kids also that they should respect one another. Like, if this kid tells you to stop doing something, they should not have to come to me to tell you to stop doing whatever it was they told you to stop doing. So I had to take both kids. Then this person say this, that, and the other. Yes. Well, you need to do it. Like, respect one another, you know? So I teach kids that not only are kids, their peers supposed to respect them, but adults too. Now, if kids says what they say, whatever, and they still have a problem with adult, then you come to me, I'll take care of it. But I just want adults to get out of that habit of thinking that it's all right to disrespect a kid because you're the adult and stuff like that. No.
Yeah, I find myself apologizing to my kids. Like,
yeah,
I apologize to them. I tell them when I was wrong. Yo, I'm sorry.
Right.
I was bugging. And then if they arguing, hey, y'all better figure it out because I'm not gonna. No, if you involve me, I'm punishing everybody. Y'all need to figure it out for yourself. Don't involve me in it unless everybody want to get punished. But you have to teach them. I think Michelle Obama was talking about, yeah, man, that whole, I'm a dictator, man. I apologize to my kids all the time. I be fucking, sometimes, I make mistakes. I shouldn't have done that, and I'm sorry.
Yep. Adults act like kids should not, they should listen, not be heard. But no, you have to listen to what they have to say as well. And the thing is, they're not people when they turn 18, 21. They're already people. They have their own personalities, own minds, and all that stuff. They deserve respect. And a lot of trauma that these kids grow up with, or that we've grown up with, is due to adults in their messed up way of thinking and being disrespectful. And you call them out on it. Oh, that can't be true, blah, 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 blah. But then when you grow up and when you're an adult and you tell them the same thing you told them when you was a kid, then they listening.
I try to treat it the same. Like, I got 4 boys. I try to treat it, I'm the embodiment of leadership. These are my kids. I am in power. I want to show, like, even though I'm in power, I still have to show them, like, humility. I still have to show them humbleness. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way I look at it. Because I'm like, when they a boss or when they feel like they in charge and that's how they gonna run their house. Like, this is a family. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just the head. Like, we all one. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's my job to lead, but I try my best. I'm not gonna get on here and pretend like I'm perfect. I be fucking up. You know what I'm saying? I be with the shits. Okay. I be with the shits. I be fucking up. You see me? But it's also like, man, like having that humility of like just teaching. I'm like, man, if God created us, I try and do my best because I'm like, God don't act like that. God don't spank me every time I choose to do something He don't want me to do. He give me grace. He give me mercy. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I try to do the same with the kid, like teaching, but giving that grace and mercy. I promise I try my best. Because I'm like,
so
man,
you believe in gentle parenting? You believe in gentle parenting?
Nah, I tell you, I be with the shits. Okay, I be with the shits. But I'm just saying that I try to mix it with God. Like sometimes, you need to know. Like sometimes, like, nah, saying don't pass go. You need to get this. You know what I'm saying? Because I need you to understand. But sometimes, man, certain lessons aren't taught with punishment. Sometimes they taught with grace. You ever did something and you deserved it, and somebody just understood? They already knew how you felt. Like those moments hit home too. When somebody really get to understand it, because sometimes when we bring in that violence or we bring in that punishment, it becomes about that. But once that punishment, once you get used to them whoopings, it's no longer determined. Just like people going to jail. If I keep going in and out of jail, jail is no longer determined. So then you wonder why I commit certain crimes, because jail doesn't deter me from committing crimes. With certain punishments, without understanding why I'm punishing you, like I'm just using this whooping to get you to change your behavior. But I'm like, if that whooping don't do nothing for you no more, then what am I doing?
Right, like a temporary fix to a permanent, I guess, am I saying it right? A temporary solution to a permanent problem, basically. If you don't explain it, what it is to the child, that's what would it be?
Yeah, you got
it. So I want to ask, I got 2 questions that I do want to ask, and I guess I can ask back to back. The first 2 questions was I put what inspired you to want to heal, and what does healing look like to you? Like during the healing process, what are some things that you guys did to kind of help you guys throughout the process?
I've always wanted to be a better version of me. So that's just the way I've always been. Is you don't stop learning till you die. So I'm gonna keep on learning and improving on myself. And part of my journey is understanding what my triggers are so I can avoid them. Like I said, I do take meds, whatever. So it does give me time to think before reacting. Because, before meds, that's how fast a blackout happens. Like you don't feel it coming on. I can feel myself coming out of a blackout, but I've never felt myself going into one. So it's just, ma'am, So,
so do you feel like once you,
I
was gonna say, do you feel like once you find out what your triggers are, that you're gonna discontinue the medication or what?
It's so much crap that's happened with me. No.
Okay.
But I'm gonna save many people I can. I mean, I'm happy with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy with bringing awareness to other people before they even need meds or before they need to be on strong meds and stuff like that, because it's a struggle going through all these medications until they find the right ones.
Yeah.
Because you did ask me about the medication earlier, and I've one day I just almost died. I was just like, the medication was so messed up, and it had my heart. Was it a heart palpitation or something? Like my heart wasn't beating right, and like I felt myself just trying to not fall asleep but pass out. Like, you know how you can just feel your soul just trying to leave
Like
your
lose
body.
conscious. Okay.
And
Okay.
then in that state, in that weakened state that I was in, I couldn't even tell like what reality was. So I just, called out and had my family call 911, and the the firefighters, they got there first. They always get there first. they you know how you supposed to show them the meds and stuff like that. My daughter passes them a bag and stuff, and they're just like, "You're way too young for all these meds." I'm just like, God, I got to just contact my doctor and find out what else works, because this
Right.
ain't it.
So, like, besides like the meds, it was nothing else that they was trying to do, like anger management, or nothing would like work.
I mean, I go to the therapy and stuff like that, but um, the meds is to slow me down, because, like I said, a blackout for me is less than a second, and I'm, when that happens, you're at risk, other people are at risk, or whatever. Um, and so it just gives you time to actually process the situation and handle it. One thing about me is that my emotional gauge, we'll say, is broken.
Mm-hmm.
So, normal people feel bothered, annoyed, angry. Any negative emotion for me registers as rage.
So you go from 0 to 100 real quick, like Drake
Yeah,
said. Okay.
yeah, because something like the blackout when I was a kid, that happened. But that was an outsider, right? My first blackout with a family member totally made me snap. Like, I snapped, and so things were no, I could never go back to normal. I actually had to self-evaluate, which I'm glad I did. I've always self-evaluated myself, and that's how I was able to recall and remember how the old me would react to certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I was feeling rage, it's like, this situation, I would have felt annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to bring my rage down to annoyed and then let it dissipate. A normal level of anger would come out as rage. I would have to bring myself to that level and let it dissipate. So it was just a lot of putting pieces of the puzzle together to figure out what I was really feeling, as opposed to what my body was registering it as.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, like I said, there was a situation with a death in the family and just a whole bunch of crap. And so I snapped again. And so the old me that took me years to figure out is gone. I got to deal with this new person. And the new person is worse than the last one. Because there is no more broken gauge. There is no gauge at all.
Mm.
So it's very annoying. It's very stressful. First of all, having your family and friends think they have to babysit you in certain situations because I can't control myself if I black out. I need someone to pull me out of it. Like luckily, I did have the training beforehand and the therapy before that last tragic blackout and snap itch and all this crap. Because I still had something to fall back on. You know, if I know that something is going to annoy me, I'll walk away. I'm the walk away queen, okay? I'll run if I have to, because I just try to avoid certain situations and stuff like that. Especially if I'm in person. That means I can reach out and grab you. I'm out. Deuces.
I know with us talking about this subject, it can be triggering for all of us, especially all of us, right? Well, you had said something about like you just said something and it kind of stood out to me. You was talking about the whole frustration piece, to knowing that you feel that you always may have to have someone in your family to watch out over you. And I know like part of my healing journey is really finding the beauty in everything. So what if you had nobody to do that? It's so many people that don't even have nobody. So like maybe like what I would do in that situation, because I'm not in that situation, is just trying to find a positive in it and say, you know what? The good thing is that I do got somebody, because it's a lot of people that don't have it. So if you look at it in that aspect, then maybe you won't feel as frustrated. It'll make you feel a little bit more blessed, I guess.
I mean, I know that they don't feel that I'm a burden. You know what I'm saying? I know that. But you just still hate to put people in that situation.
Right. Wheeler, you want to ask?
It's nothing like looking at your family members and they're like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like literally they have those moments. They look at me and they see me switch and it's like, or they see a situation that's leading up to a possible switch in personality, you know, the dark side. You know, Darth Vader and stuff.
Wheeler, you want to answer the question? I put the question was, what inspired you to want to heal, and what does healing look like for you? Like, what does you do? What are you doing throughout your healing journey?
Healing for me is peace. I think I'm still searching for it. Every time I grow, the level change. Like I think I got it figured out, but like at new levels and new frequencies, there's new challenges. There's new devils. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, for me, it's constantly being present. Like that battle, it changes from moment to moment. The situation changes from good to bad. So for me, it's being present. For me, it's constantly like evaluating myself. Like what healing looks like for me it is peace, but it's that self-awareness, like continuing to self-assess, because as I grow, I change. Like there was a difference, like, you know, whether I'm drinking or smoking or not drinking or smoking, every action has a reaction. When I stopped drinking and smoking, then all of a sudden I gained all this weight, because all of a sudden now, like, well, you ain't drinking or smoking. You deserve this double cheeseburger and this Oreo milkshake. I've never been an emotional eater. Now all of a sudden I'm eating Flaming Hots and Hot Puffs and Snickers and but that's I changed something. It was like, I changed something.
I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to blow him up on the screen, but what I did is I kicked you off. My bad. I'm just thinking like this until I figure everything out. You was making me hungry in the spirit of hunger.
Oh,
For real, man. Because I feel like,
I'm
I
sorry.
blew up. I realized I gained a bunch of weight, but that was because I was trying not
oh,
to do
crap.
other stuff. Then I realized, I need relief. I felt like my mind was right, but I didn't have my
Yeah.
spirit together. It's the Trinity. It's the Trinity. By nature of the trait, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to say, but my spirit wasn't right. And my spirit feeds the mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then I had to get my spirit together. You know what I'm saying? Like, in order for it to put me on the right path of it, where it's like my mind knew everything it was supposed to do, but I wasn't taking care of my body and I wasn't feeding my spirit. You know what I'm saying? And so like that part was lacking, and I needed to balance all of those things out. But that's what healing looks like, being self-aware. To me, that's what healing looks like, because it's gonna be different battles, different scars. There will always be pain. I
So
will
like
never be fully healed because there's more scars coming. There's more wounds coming. So for me, healing looks like being self-aware and being able to self-assess.
No,
so what are
you
some things
right.
that you
I'm glad
do
you said that.
to help you? Well, you said self-assess is some of the things you do to kind of like help you heal. Because I guess I should have been more detailed, like maybe ask like activities or something like that. Like, how do you go about self-assessing?
So I think that there's, and I'm gonna keep it short. I think there's 7 dimensions of wellness, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's physical, there's social, there's mental, environmental, spiritual. What am I leaving out? I'm at 5. Occupational, that's your purpose, that's your intent. And emotional. Yeah, emotional. Those are 7. And so what I do as a part of my assessment is like all of those things need to be in balance. You know what I'm saying? And so every month I really do an assessment of where am I at in each dimension. Like whether or not I have friends and social support, whether or not I'm taking care of my body, where my spiritual is. Every month, like that's the assessment that I do. I really identify each dimension and where it is that I'm at in each one. A short example would be like, yo, I moved from the city out here to the burbs. Now, that sounds like it's cool, but then when I moved out here, I stopped exercising. I used to be hooping, riding my bike. My physical went down because now I'm in a new environment, so I don't know really where to go for that. So I stopped doing that. My social took a hit. I used to live in the city. Everybody stopped through on me. Now I live in the burbs. Ain't nobody popping up on me at the crib. So now I'm missing the social. Like I said, my spiritual was lacking. So I do and it's just a general assessment that everybody can do, just hitting each one of those dimensions and seeing where it is that you're at. And what I do is I call it a recipe. I think of a time when I was at a really good place in my life, and I do the 7 dimensions for that time and place. So when I was really happy, what were the things I had in each one of those dimensions that sort of catered to my happiness? So then I compare it up to a time where, hey, I'm sort of lacking, like what is it that I'm missing? So for me, that's what works for me. You know what I'm saying? Because it really helps me identify, hey, based off what I got going on in my life, what is it that I have and don't have, and that way it can help me identify what do I need to sort of be proactive in seeking, whether it's more social, whether it's taking care of physical, or once again, I use that assessment to really figure out I was missing that spiritual component. You know what I'm saying? For me, like my mind knew, but then when I went down and I did the assessment, I'm like, yo, you ain't feeding your spirit. Your spirit out here is starving. You know what I'm saying? You trying to run on your mind alone, and it was lacking. So that's what I do.
All right. Podcast, since we still have you in here, I don't know if you're present. You can hear me, podcast?
Yeah.
Do you think you can answer that question on what inspired you to want to heal, and what does healing look like for you? Like, what are some things that you do throughout your healing process that work for you?
On I don't know. I don't think I have the kind of answer that you might be looking for, but that I don't see it like how everybody else see it. I don't think there is no real healing. I think when I look at the way I view healing is removing yourself from certain situations, from certain environments, right? Because let's say you're the type of person that I heard the word rage be used tonight. And something
Yeah.
happens and you fly off into a rage, right? And then I'll use myself as an example. And I'm saying, yo, I've healed from rage. And then I get put in a situation and I exhibit this same rage that I said I healed from. I don't necessarily know if you actually do ever heal. The true thing
Yeah.
to me is to just not focus on it, right? What it doesn't. I'm not gonna say it works. That's the thing about works, because that shit is temporary. But the thing that has benefited me is just not focusing on it. I spent so much of my life focusing on all the bad things that had ever happened and all the things that went wrong present time. And I got to a point where I wanted to not have to deal with that. And I started making a conscious decision to not focus on it, to start focusing on the good that happened and give the bad way less time. So if you want to call that healing, I won't argue with a person. Um, but I am still to this day quick to turn to anger and
Mm-hmm.
violence.
So can I ask you a question real quick? So you just brought up the situation when you brought up the word rage, and you said if someone uses the word rage and they say that they heal from rage, are you associating rage as the trauma or the response? Because typically, if somebody is expressing something from a trauma, something traumatic happened, the response will probably be, I guess, rage will be the response. So, are you taking the word rage as the trauma or the response?
So, of course, rage is the reaction
Right.
to whatever it is, whatever situation you find yourself in. But the fact of the matter is, I have scars on my body, right, that were caused by traumatic events. They don't hurt anymore. They don't bother me. I don't even think about them. Half the time, I'm just not even consciously aware that they're there, right? So what I'm saying is most of the time, from what I can see, is people don't tend to get away from psychological and emotional traumas. You just don't think about it,
Yeah.
right? One of the most painful things I've seen people endure is the loss of a parent. You don't actually really get over it. You don't you don't actually really heal from it. You just don't pay attention to it. You stop thinking about it. Life catches up with you. You still got to go to work. You still got kids to raise, bills to pay. You still got your own internal inflictions that you're dealing with. But it still hurts, which is why it could be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later. You think long enough, hard enough about that person that you lost, you will break down and cry as if it was the same day.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean is that, to me, the best thing you can do is not focus on the bad, try to focus more on the good, right? And try to remove yourself from environments and situations that are triggering. Unfortunately, for some of us, life is the trigger. Waking up, trigger. Having to go to the bathroom is the trigger. Having to shower, brush your teeth is the trigger.
Yeah.
And that becomes very difficult to escape.
Okay.
I agree with what you say. Like I do not like the statement, "Time heals all wounds." Just like you said, that's just not true. Or
You
you
said
get
time.
over it with time.
Yeah, I was gonna
Time
say
heals all wounds.
what. Yeah, I was gonna say something like that. They said it'll get better with time or something like that. I was because that's
Yeah,
what
they
I
said
thought
that
about
too.
when he was saying it. Like, okay,
But
uh,
when you lose somebody, especially like there's loss and then there's like real loss. Real loss will drop you to your knees. it's a pain that you'll never get over.
Right. So
Mm.
podcasts, like whenever you're going through something in your life and you say you just try not to think about it, of course you I'm assuming that you're replacing that with some form of activity, because being active, whether it's working out, reading a book, getting on these podcasts or whatever, just being keeping your mind busy so you won't be focusing on the thing that's making you feel that's traumatic. What type of advice, or what is it, something that you can tell somebody else to do so that it can maybe help them? Because I guess I just appreciate the fact that all of us just being on here, being genuine, telling our story. And I could be going through something and something may work for me, but it may not resonate with somebody else. So what is something that you do to kind of like help you whenever you feel like you're going through something traumatic, as opposed to just saying like don't think about it? Because a lot of times that's what we're doing, we're thinking about it, but we probably need some type of activity that'll help us replace us thinking about it.
So I can't recommend people do what I do because 90% of it isn't actually healthy. Um, but what I know does work is, working out, going to the gym membership, or working out in your own house, to YouTube videos, eating better, eating healthier, you know, just like really finding ways to love yourself, focus on yourself, try to become a better version of yourself, and, you know, taking the time out to love other people. Um, Doing activities that are more altruistic in nature, you know, giving back somehow, some way, volunteering. And I don't necessarily mean for strangers. You know, we all have older aunties or something that can't clean their houses properly. Go over and clean and talk to them and ask them questions about, your family before you were born, things that you might not know, like stuff like that. It's all kind of ways that you can do things to because, as you said, that's really the problem, is mine is the devil's playground, as they always say. Um, and so you want to create activities, right? That stop you from being idle, but you don't want it to be non-healthy activities. And for some people, you don't want it to be self-centered. One of the things that can really help you get over whatever you're going through is to help somebody else with their situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you like, damn, do that. It's like you don't want to feel better about your situation because somebody else is going through something worse, but you do want to be able to have a rational mindset and attitude about your situation, which is very hard to do when you just stuck with it. Because it's like a lot of times when we're going through stuff, we feel like we're the only ones that's going through that particular.
Hmm.
And so you have to be willing to counsel others. I mean, they say 80% of therapists need therapy themselves, right? And it's probably more than that. They're just trying to be, favorable with the number. At the end of the, like I said, all the stuff that I do outside of podcasting, it's not healthy. So there's no need for me to even suggest it. Um,
Okay.
but I'm me. You know what I'm saying? I don't I, I don't take uh, as much care of myself as I probably should.
Hmm.
I'm resigned to the fact that I probably don't have a lot of time left, which is why I just do my podcast, try to, enjoy my days as much as I can. So I'm glad I got my own space though. So when I need to be depressed like I am right now, I can do it unbothered. I don't have a bunch of people trying to talk to me or trying to make me feel better, because none of that ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of that is gonna work. You know, I knew you was doing your show. I wanted to pull up because you pulled up for me. So I did. That made me feel a little better. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like things like that, you know, can ease whatever anxiety, depression, or trauma that you might be dealing with. But you just really gotta focus on other people. Sometimes I'm telling you, that's the best thing. You got kids, got a mama, daddy, siblings. Man, just spend some time loving people, talking to people, texting people.
Yeah.
Man, I love you. You know what I'm saying? What you doing? Friends or whatever, Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Go on there and just inbox some people you ain't inboxed in a minute and just ask them, are they all right? You know what I'm saying? But you know, that's about it.
I appreciate your perspective, and for y'all who don't know, I just found out that me and Podcast was cousin. The first time we did the live Tuesday, we had us we was beefing. Once me and you started going back and forth, we family now. So yeah, that's my first cousin. I want to get
That's
Daru
cool.
perspective, and then after I get Daru perspective, we gonna wrap it up and call it one.
What was the question again? What inspired
Question:
us? And
what inspired you to want to heal, and what does healing look like to you? Like, what are some things you're doing throughout this process?
a few things inspired me. One, I'm gonna say my father. He was somebody like as a kid I always yearned for, and I felt like the man had much more than potential. You know, he had like factual talent, and I couldn't understand, why he wasted it. And then it was like I noticed it was like a line of generational curses in my family with the men coming off my father's side, and I felt like, damn, since a young child, it was up to me, to break it. Another thing that inspired me was my son. The first time I heard his heartbeat, it changed my life. I used to think it was cliche hearing people talk about it, like, man, I have my child. Da, da, da. I used to be like in my head, like, yeah, shut up. But when I heard my dude heartbeat, I was like, oh yeah, this is real. Um, and then the last one, to be honest, I feel like I could change the world. I ain't gonna say I feel like I truly believe that I can change the world, and I think that in order for me to change the world, I got to change myself first. You know,
Yeah.
for me, what do healing look like? Healing look like peace within yourself. You know, healing looks like being present, and what I mean by present is this: like actually being able to be responsive in the moment, but to be able to take time to actually process everything. You know, it was something that I thought was like real nice. I read about Abraham Lincoln. They was like he was a powerful man, but a lot of people hated the way that he moved, and they hated the way that he moved because he wasn't really responsive. He wasn't an automatic responsive person, and I love what I read about him because I think that like that's how you develop and keep peace. You know what I mean? I'm wondering. A lot of people say um, you never completely heal because trauma continuously come. I think otherwise because I think like once you reach that point of healing, I think in order for you to truly heal, you have to know who you are, right? So once you know who you are, nothing else can deter that, regardless of whatever comes your way. Like, I don't mean to be ruthless or heartless when I say this, but it goes into my belief. Like, I don't think I would mourn knowing somebody who died. I probably would initially mourn, you know what I mean, because they gone in that moment. But I don't think like after that I would mourn because honestly, what I believe, we all talk about energy and etc. Right? I truly believe like at this point in place, we a specific energy in a specific temple. You know what I mean? Like whether we bump up again somewhere else, I think like we just transfer to another, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So I don't mourn about stuff like that, but healing just looks like peace to me. Completely understanding, and I'll just put this out there. I'm not completely healed. I got one last piece that's left in me. I still see this one last dark spot in me. And I think that once I bring that one last dark spot, like I am gonna be whole and complete. Like I'm gonna be able to say, like, I am who I, you know what I mean? But outside of that, like that's what peace looks like to me. That's what healing. And one thing that I honestly do, you know, to help me get to the point where I'm at, I know it was a lot of stuff that went on with me when I was a kid. So honestly, I don't take like a typical approach. To be honest, I damn near taunt myself. And what I mean by that is this: like I try to find the triggers within myself. You know what I mean? I know that like hearing certain stuff evokes certain things. You know what I mean? Like what I just mentioned, um, that last dark spot, right? These random like super old songs started coming to me. I didn't even know what they was. I just found myself calling my mama like 2 o'clock in the morning, like, I keep hearing this song that go like this and that go like that, and she be like, dang, I ain't listened to that since you was a baby. So now I'm saying, okay, whatever went on, did she happen when I was a baby? You know what I mean? Oh, she said she remember listening to that when I was 3 and 4 years old. So now, like, I find myself taunting myself. And the purpose of me taunting myself is because, like, I found myself going down that rabbit hole because the more I taunt myself, the more it evokes out of me. And I think, like, that's something that we all got to do to heal. Like, healing is finding the trauma. Like yesterday when Jasmine called me, I answered because I think she a dope person, but she called me in what I call in the middle of trauma hunting because I know there's one last thing inside of me. I literally see that one last dark piece, and it's like I feel like when I pull that plug, it's gonna be long. Excuse my language. It's gonna be long as shit because that pain that's inside of that is deep rooted as hell. And I've been fighting for like 3 months now to pull out whatever it's gonna be. And I truly believe, like, when I finally do pull it out, I think my life gonna evolve into a whole nother level. You know what I mean? Like, in trauma, I felt like I was two people. Like I said earlier, like, I
Yep.
battled with me, and then it's like the angry part, and I know it ain't me because I'm gonna say the I am like Daru, right? I always like went by Sean and all these other names, never by Daru, because Daru was always the perspective individual. Daru is the man, like Daru is the gentleman, Daru is the leader, teacher, counselor, and the waymaker. But it was like Sean was just like this traumatized nigga, like all of this, like I related to all of that. And I feel like again, like that one last plug is gonna pull me up out of there. It's gonna disconnect me from the anger. It's gonna disconnect me from the trauma. But in order for me to be disconnected from all of that stuff, I gotta understand what it was. So like me taunting myself and me, like I told Jasmine last night, trauma hunting is bringing that to the light so I can understand, like, damn, like this, whatever happened to me or whatever was done. And then I feel like I'll be done with my pain. I really feel like I'm like this close to being whole. You know what I mean? So that's what it looked like for me, looking within.
Right. Charles, you just joined the conversation. We low key wrapping it up because we have been talking for a while. But the question was, what inspired you to what?
Come in here all late.
Right.
Oh, well,
And I don't want to hear no it better late than never. I don't want to hear that.
she's saving the best for last. You know what I'm talking about? No, I'm just playing.
The
what was the
question
question?
is, what inspired you to want to heal, and what does healing look like for you? Like, what are some things that you do, or that you did throughout your healing journey?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I can really discuss my trauma, but so I would say that my trauma, I don't. My trauma came from being bullied as an elementary school student. Well, started from preschool through elementary, and then I went through junior high and high school with this rage. I fought all the time because I vowed never to let anybody bully me again. And it was just the anger that I had built up inside of me. And so that was like the biggest thing that I think I dealt with as a youth. But what I came to realize at some point was that I was allowing other people to be in control of my emotions. And so that being said, you know what? I just vowed to I wanted to be in control of me, and so even when I feel like sometimes people trying to try me, I say try, people like try me. The thing about it is, in all actuality, you are being led by somebody else's actions. And I had to realize that. And so that inspired me to act be in control of myself. And so the thing about it is, I just the way I do that is well, first of all, I kicked enough ass, so I got my lick back. But but I started to get away from that angry person that I was. I just got in touch with nature. I got in touch with just those healthy relationships, just building healthy, loving relationships, and back chat, y'all y'all wild, but no. So that being said, I just wanted to be in control of me, and so no, that's my deal. So
okay. Well, I already kind of answered this question in the beginning. Because I'm the last person. I was trying to wait on Frankie to get back on, but I guess he experienced some technical difficulties again. Yeah, I kind of answered this question. What inspired me to want to heal? Really me having a daughter. And I know, like, to some people, it may sound a little effed up because I always say, like, I never wanted kids. I always wanted to be that super aunt that took care of everybody else's kids. And the reason I always felt that because during my childhood, I didn't have a childhood. As a kid, I was being sexually touched on. So with me experience that most of my childhood and me having to grow up faster than the average kid was because I didn't experience a childhood, I never wanted children. But then I had this point in my life where most women would be ashamed to talk about. I felt like I was forced to get an abortion. So after that, I just didn't like the way that made me feel. It really put a toll on me more. It put a damp on me mentally, made everything that I was feeling mentally way worse than what it was. Years passed down the line. I'm dealing with her dad. I get pregnant, and we was indecisive as to what we was going to do. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't like how I felt when I went through that whole abortion phase the first time when I was forced to get it and I had her. And in my mind, it wasn't that I was prepared to take care of her by myself because I still had help. You know, he was still around. He was going to every doctor's visit and everything like that. But I made a vow to myself that I was going to be and give her everything better than what I had, which was parenting. I didn't have a village. So I wanted to be able to get her that village. I didn't know how to communicate. For me, even now as an adult, I don't argue with people. I just shut down and act like people like literally don't exist. So if I feel like it's any way like a man or anybody raise their voice at me, I cut you out. You might as well not even speak to me ever again in life because at that point, I guess that can be unhealthy to some people. Some people may say that's toxic. But I had to learn how to communicate effectively if I want to be able to teach my baby all the things that I didn't have. So that's what kind of inspired me to want to.
What part was toxic?
You know how I shut down. I like literally shut down, and you know you may have some people.
The shutting down is bad, but not the cutting people off. Like
no, I wasn't talking
like
about.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Yeah, like I shut down and just act like you never existed. I can do that. And it can be people that I truly love. It can be somebody that I'm in love with. I will hurt myself to not to try to prove a point, but just to tell myself like I would never tolerate certain things and certain behaviors from certain people. So I had to learn how to communicate everything that I was feeling. So if I was frustrated, instead of me raising my voice, which most women do, most women tend to be very emotional. I'm able to express like, you know what, I'm frustrated. If you hurt my feelings, I'm able to articulate that my feelings is hurt without me having to cry and act all over the place. So I had to train myself to be more logical than the average woman. But what does healing look like to me is really just like pretty much what everybody else said, making myself a better Jasmine today than I was the better Jasmine yesterday. So some of the things that like I really do is I believe in bucket list. I got a bucket list for everything. I got a bucket list for all the books I want to read, all the places I want to travel, all the activities I want to do. I got a bucket list for all fears. I got a fear of water. That's because not washing my ass, but I'm almost y'all know I had to fly a little joke in there, but I've almost drowned a couple of times. So because I had those incidents where people was playing and I almost drowned, I decided to put some of those activities that include water on my bucket list. So during my healing journey, I'm just knocking off things from each
Yeah.
bucket list that I have. So I read a lot of books. I do a lot of writing. Um, like the other day, I had last week I went skating. I haven't did rollerblades since I was a kid. So what I'm really doing is reactivating that kid in me. Still, I guess if that makes any sense. I'm filling that
Yeah.
void in the kid in me, and it's allowing me to feel whole. And that part that I felt that was so empty and incomplete, I'm filling in that blank. And it's allowing me to be a better parent, and it's allowing me to see my daughter for who she is. Like she's a person and she's grown into her own things. She have different interests and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what healing looks like for me. I realized what my triggers was. But for me, like just really having an unwavering amount of peace. Like I'm so peaceful. It don't matter what somebody does or says. Like it does not interrupt anything that I have going on because, like I said earlier, all I really put all my energy and efforts in is like making sure that I'm paying attention to the positive experiences in my life. Anything that's negative, I learned to take that negative part of me that typically would shut people down and not communicate. I learned to master that and use that to supersede anything negative in my life. So I turned that negative into a positive, and I just make sure I focus on anything that makes me feel good, that's happy, that's not disrupting my peace. And that's how I'm able to stay peaceful. So yeah, I guess we
Hey,
can
I
wrap
want to
up.
say I think like two things that you said was super dope. The fact that you included some of your biggest fears in your bucket list, like about the water. And then secondly, I want to say how you were filling the void that you feel like came from your childhood. I think that was super dope. Because that was one of the things that I also encountered, and I like mixed that in with something we were saying earlier. Like if you experience trauma at a specific time in one way or another, you like stuck in that place because you didn't get to grow and develop through that process because like trauma deletes a lot. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
need to know and we need to know and remember in order for us to grow. It's like if we don't remember what's 3 plus 5, like shit, how we gonna multiply? Because now we didn't forget the basics. You know what I mean? And I just thought
Yeah.
that was real dope. Because that was something that I experienced. Like as being 34 now, it was some areas in my life I said, Rue, man, you immature as hell, dude. Like, so I started trying to figure out, like, if I'm dope as hell in the mind, like, why do immaturity come out in specific areas? So when I started looking at it, I'm like, damn, like, those was trauma areas for me. So it was like I didn't get to build or mold because everything starts off immature before it can mature. So I didn't get to mold those immature areas into a mature place. And honestly, like praying, talking to God, literally, Jasmine, this is why I really think it was so dope what you said. Like I asked God, I said, man, like, okay, I accept what happened to me in my childhood, but like, how do I heal it? And he said, go back to that place. And I was like, what? He said, what did you used to love to do, man? And I was like, man, I used to love to skate. I remember being a shorty, just like out there getting it on the skates on 73rd and Morgan. And it was like super dope. You know what I mean? So my plan this week actually is to buy me and my son some skates. And one last thing I'm gonna do. I remember being a shorty want to write music. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna buy me this laptop keyboard or whatever, and I'm gonna see what it do for me. I think it's gonna help me a lot. You know what I mean? Because like I said earlier, that one little black dark piece, it's something in my childhood that went on, and I think me buying that keyboard is gonna help me like bring a epiphany to whatever it is before I can reach my whole state of wholeness.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, you're doing really good to only have one little speck left to, to get rid of. Okay.
Look, it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, And I'm gonna just say this: like after I had that surgery, it truly changed my life. I read the Bible a lot and read the Bible a lot, but I'm not religious. I look at it as a knowledge book. One of the things it said was like, when God called you. I used to think it was fugazi, man. Like, man, get this, you know. And after the surgery, I couldn't work because I got a new heart, liver, and kidney, so they had to crack my chest open. And all I could do was Uber. And I used to literally be doing Uber and hearing something call my name, like Sean, Sean. And I used to think, like, when I get it's gonna get louder. It's gonna get, so regardless of where I went, it never got louder until one day I meditated. And then that's what changed my life. Like, damn, like everything that I want, need, and desire is within me. Like, I gotta change this stuff that's within me before I can do anything. So when I say it's been a long journey, like it's been a long journey, but I can now finally see like the fruit of my labor. You know what I mean? Of this inner journey that I've been on to like heal, like find out like God in me. I'm just be all the way real. Like I feel like I'm a God, man. I feel like my daddy is God. And in order for me to tap into that being, that God, man, like I gotta clean out all the trauma. I gotta find that ultimate peace. And in order for me to do that, like I gotta understand like what happened to me. I don't know where I'm going until I understand where I came from. That's
Yep.
really
And
All right. We
um,
have Frankie back on. We want to try to get him to answer this question before he disappear again. The question was, what inspired you to want to heal, and what does healing look like for you? Like, what are some activities you do or that you have done throughout your healing journey? We're gonna let you take it out, then beautifully animated, then we're gonna close the show out.
Okay, cool. For me, healing is accepting in the present moment. Because the what prevents us from healing is our attachments to how we felt when we were hurt. And so, yeah, healing, it doesn't end. It's an ongoing, because as we grow, Wheeler said, as we grow, our frequencies raise, and there will always be something to detour you off your path. And the true test is, can you hold your core no matter the storm around you? And that test will always be there. It doesn't end. And some things that I utilize on a day-to-day to bring balance, to bring wellness to myself. I meditate consistently. I consistently give myself Reiki, music, listening to music, just creating. Also, anxiety energetically, it's energy that we're not utilizing, so it's amped up in us. And so to release the energy, we have to create, no matter what that form of creation is for us. We have to create. We all have our own purpose, our own path, and it involves always some form of creation or creating, collaboration, whatever it may be. And oftentimes we're not utilizing our God-given gifts, and that's where the imbalances occur. And so meditate, I do yoga. I write, I'm in a forest. I consume herbs on a regular basis. That's part of my practice. I forage. Yeah.
that's cool.
I muted myself because I was making sure it wasn't me. But
Not
yes,
with me.
it wasn't me. How you was able to tell who it was?
We only got one new person.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He coming with all of that negative
Elementary,
energy.
my dear.
Right.
Elementary, my dear.
Well, we're gonna wrap this show up. I want to thank all of you guys for your perspective on trauma and healing. Yeah.
Girl, you
I
can,
know-
you can make a part two, because like we don't
yeah, I
even deal
do.
with anger.
Yeah, I do. Look, I wrote down rage because you talked about rage, and then podcast went in and reiterated on rage and whether rage can be the trauma or the response. You get what I'm saying? Because I think
the
you
thing
was talking
is,
about like how with your family, you the trauma could be rage because you saw most of your people in your family do things out of rage. So that can be
first my situation happened, right? And then growing up, I hear the stories. Oh, your aunt did this, your dad did this, and just the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you see the cousins and stuff like that, or hear about the cousins. It's like, oh, so we're all messed up. Oh, okay. you know, but
Right.
but
Right.
but I will say, because the first time I saw my dad lose his shit, I was just like, that was traumatizing. So the rage itself can be traumatizing because beforehand I had no experience with this, and that was my first experience with anger, was rage and a blackout. So that was
Mm-hmm.
traumatizing to me because I had no control of myself, so I couldn't trust myself.
Right.
So yeah, that's traumatizing. And I've had situations, I was messed with as a kid also. So you know, when you can't trust blood and stuff like that, and you gotta be watchful and all this stuff. And the thing is, it took me years to even realize why I was like wanting to just choke this person out every time I saw him. Um, and like Daru is like, it's that dang on involuntary mind blockage and stuff like that. Like I can't even think of what you call it, but basically it's a hidden memory. I'll say a hidden memory that you react to, but you don't even know why you're reacting to it.
Right.
Like you don't until like for him, it took me years to figure that mess out, and it's like, oh, that's why I don't like him.
So that's why I mentioned the taunting part.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because I was like, I can't figure out why I feel or think like this, but I know it ain't me. See, I learned to
right.
separate myself from the thoughts because I realized like we hold trauma in our body, and I feel like them thoughts come from stuff that like that was repressed. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
stuff down in our subconscious
subconscious,
mind, but
right?
it come out,
Yeah,
at peaks. So that's what I meant by like trauma hunting. Like I got to figure out like what the heck happened. So if I hear
yep,
certain songs that like I don't know, I feel like move me on the inside of something, man, I'm gonna try to
It's
play it.
yeah,
That's
Man,
how I feel
yeah,
like if I see certain things or I'm touched in certain areas, what it would do, it would literally disarm me. You get what I'm saying? But I really
yeah.
wish you could have stayed on. That's actually my aunt, y'all. Especially when you said we could, because I did want to do like a part two about the whole trauma thing and kind of dig deeper a little bit into the sexual part, because I really didn't talk all about everything. And now knowing that you experienced that, she experienced that, and the way she went about going it, I guess, was overgiving. And I didn't realize like overgiving can be a trauma response as well. And she had to like program it to me like givers gotta know when to stop giving because takers don't know when to stop taking. And we feel like because we are, whatever we had was already taken from us. We've given
Yeah.
all that we can give. So all we know is to give, and we're giving without limits or whatever. So we have to really know how to put up that barrier, especially when you're going through this healing journey, because man, you can't pour from no empty cup or you just be completely depleted. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah, I know we are definitely going to do a part two to this. I'm gonna make sure she's available and that she don't have the kids with her. That way she can get on and talk about it, because she talk. Everybody got their own different outlets. It's not that I don't believe in God. I do believe that it's a God in all of us. So it's not that I look at myself as God, but if He created us in His image, then all of us are gods. If you look at it that way, I do believe that there's a higher being. But she's like really on the whole the Bible thing. So for everybody, when they go throughout their little journey, it's different for everybody. And just to get other people's perspective, because you never know, like I said earlier, you never know who can resonate with your story. And I truly appreciate y'all for just hopping on and just being like true, just raw and genuine, because a lot of times you get on these podcasts and everybody want to be, everything is fake. When you get on Instagram, everything is they're promoting perfection. That's why I kind of start like a TikTok. I'm like, dang, I ain't gotta do my hair, I ain't gotta do no makeup, I ain't gotta do nothing. You can just be yourself. I get on Facebook Live all the time because the people that they know me, they saw me since I was a kid, and I'm still the same. I mean, I've grown. I matured some. I'm gonna say that I matured some. But you get on these platforms and everybody expect for you to be perfect, knowing damn well there's no such thing as a perfect individual. We all come with flaws. Right. So, like, I truly appreciate y'all for really taking the time out y'all busy schedule on this hump day, and just being y'all true, authentic selves. We need more of that. So I'm gonna close this show out. Thank y'all for tuning in to Jasmine Says It All. We're gonna have a part 2.
Me.
Likewise.
And congrats on your first live.
Great job.
We had to figure it out. I don't have the sound, but yeah, y'all know.
Thank you for having me.
Did you press the